All right, week 5, lesson 1. You only have 2 lessons this week because the send-in task will be lesson number 3, but more about that later. Right, pause the video here and complete this table, which is a bit of prior knowledge. All right, if you are struggling a bit, we'll do the first one together. So they're giving you the decimal 0.4. If you times it by 100, which is skipping the decimal place 2 spots, this gives us 40%. And then if we want it as a fraction, that's the same as 40 over 100. You can cross out both zeros, which is 4 over 10. And that will be 2 over 5, which if you just half the top and the bottom. Alright, pause here and have a look. Make sure you've got your answers correct. Alright, have a quick read over these, what we're looking for this lesson. Alright, let's have a look at an example here, finding the percentage of a number. We want to find 80% of 35. First thing you need to do, get this percentage, turn it into a decimal. So 80% divided by 100, 0.8, and then times that by 35, and you get your 28 questions, which is 80% of 35. There's the steps up there. Convert to a percentage. Convert percentage to a decimal, and then multiply by your number, which is what we just did down the bottom there. So let's have a look at these ones. We've got 3 examples here. 15% of 40. So remember your steps. First step, convert this percentage to a decimal. So all I'm doing there is just moving the decimal place. 2 steps, 1, 2. So 0.15 of 40 should be 6. Same with the next one down. Got 18%, make that into a decimal. 2 jumps, so that's 0.18 times 60. 10.8. Okay, and last up, 55%, turn it to a decimal. 2 jumps because we're dividing by 100, which has 2 zeros. 0.55 times 4 liters equals 2.2 liters. And I should have put dollars in here as well. So have a go at these questions yourself. Just remember these 2 steps up the top here. Right, have a look at the answers here. Just take note that for your working, you should put down, like here, we got 10% of 30 students. So our answer should be 3 students, just so we got the working nice and correct. And millimeters here and seconds here. Right, pause here. Nope. Right, pause here and have a go at doing some of these questions yourself. Right, there's the answers for the top bit. Just remember though, when you're doing these in your book, I don't quite have enough room here, but I'm going to do P out in full. You need to do out the full working. So convert to a percentage, times by your number, and the second line, your answer. So try question 8 down below here as well. All right, have a look at those answers there. Just make sure you got them correct. If not, go back to the 2 steps, convert to a decimal, times by the number, and just work out where you may have made a small mistake. Okay, word problems. You've seen this before. Predict, clarify, big questions, solve, reflect. Just have a quick pause here, have a quick read over them. Let's have a look at this first one here. Okay, if we look here, we've got about 35% of people who come to the park bring a dog. 2/5 of people who come to the park exercise. Which group of people represents a larger percent of the people coming to the park? So let's first work out what maths we need to do here. So 35% of people, and we've got 35% and 2/5. We've got to work out which one's bigger. So a larger percent. So you've got two things happening. You've got people bringing a dog and people exercising. Bringing a dog's already in a percentage. That one's easy. But the next one, 2/5, we need to convert it into a percentage, so we're comparing percentage with percentage, not percentage with fraction. So when you convert that exercise to a percentage, you get 40. And then you can finish that off with a sentence because the question was given to us in a sentence. So just something easy like this: a greater percentage of people exercise compared to bringing a dog. Okay, let's do another example. Okay, so let's have a look. Heavy rain fell on 52% of the country on Monday and 12/25 of the country on Tuesday. On which day did the greater portion of the country receive rain? So it's like the last question, we have to work out which one is larger. So we've got two things happening like before. We've got heavy rain on Monday and heavy rain on Tuesday. So on Monday, we had 52%. On Tuesday, we had 12/25, which is 0.48 as a decimal, or 48%. So which one's larger? Monday's larger, 52%, so we're going to finish that off with a sentence. So the greater, let me use some of the same language, portion of rain fell on Monday. And that's it. Okay, let's look at one more question. So at Lakes College, 10% of students walk to school, 25% of students catch public transport, and the remainder of students are driven to school. If there are 1,200 students at the school, find out how many students walk to school, catch public transport, and are driven to school. I want you to pause, have a go at doing this one for yourself before we do it as a class. All right. So we've got our percentages of the people who come to school, but it looks like there's one missing. But you need to realize that's the remainder of the students that are driven to school. So remember, all percentages must add up to 100%. So we've got 10% of students walking. So that's 0.10 out of our total of 1,200 students. It gives us 120. We have 25%, which is 0.25 times our total number of students, which gives us 300. And the remainder, 1,200 minus 120 who walk, minus a further 300 who catch public transport, leaves us with 780 students who are driven to school. Okay, pause here. Have a go at doing these three questions. So let's have a look here. We've got Mr. Davis's students were surveyed on the favourite subject. 1/5 prefer maths. So maths, 1/5. Let's just go straight and convert that to a percentage. 20% is 20 over 100. 0.35 prefer social studies. 0.35 is 35%. And 45% prefer reading. And we need to order the subjects from least to favourite. So let's have a quick look here. The least favourite is maths. If they're in my class, they would have been the most favourite. But what can you do? Just joking. All right, the next up would be social science. And then the most favourite would be reading. Really, I think that's a bit topsy-turvy. If it was me, I would have maths at the top, then reading, because there's some great sci-fi books out there. Then lastly, social science. But the social science teachers don't like it when I say that. Alright, problem number 5. Bart conducted a music survey among his friends. He reported 0.42 prefer pop. So popular music, 0.42, which is 42%. 22% prefer rock, 2%, and country. 2/5 prefer country. Seems alarmingly high. Alright, explain what's wrong with Bart's results. We're just having a quick look here. Remember, percentages need to add up to 100. We have 42 and 40, which gives us 82. Then a further 22, which gives us 104%. So I'll let you guys finish off the sentence with that one, but it needs to be somewhere along the lines of percentage. The percentage can only add up to 100%. Bart's percentages add up to 104%. Alright, problem number 6. 40% of students in Mrs. Henry's 4th grade class are 9 years old. Another 0.25 are 10 years old. So 0.25 straight to a percentage, times it by 100, 25%. And the rest of the class is 11 years old. So if you look at the percentages that you already have, you have 40% and 25%, so that gives you 65% that we have used for our 9s and 10s, which means we must only have 35% left over for our 11-year-olds. Alright, and what the question's actually asking is, write the number of students that are 11 years old as a fraction. So not a percentage this time, a fraction. So 35% is 35 over 100. I'm going to divide the top and the bottom by 5 to get 7 over 20. Alright, on to the challenge question. The Grand Old Duke of York had 10,000 men. He lost 10% of them on the way to the top of the hill. He then lost 15% of the rest on the way back down. What percentage of his 10,000 men remained when he got to the bottom of the hill? Okay, so let's start. This has a few sections to it, so let's just look at the first step. So he started with 10,000 men and he lost 10% of them. So let's minus off 10% as a decimal, 0.1. So we're going to find 10% of 10,000. We're going to minus that from the original number of men he had, 10,000. So 10,000 minus 10% of 10,000, which is 1,000. which gives us 9,000 men. And that's just the first bit, so that's the 10% that he lost on the way to the top of the hill. We then have the next section. He then lost 15% of the rest on the way back down. So of the rest means the 9,000 men that he had remaining after he lost the first 10%. So this time we're starting with 9,000 men, and he lost 15% of those men. So 15% as a decimal is 0.15. 9,000 minus 1,350, which is 15% of 9,000. 7,650 men he had left after he lost the 10%, and then he lost a further 15% on what he had remaining. Now we've got the last part, which says what percentage of his 10,000 men remained when he got to the bottom of the hill. So we have 7,650 remaining of his 10,000 men. And we want that as what percentage? So we want that as a percentage. So we're going to have to times that by 100. So you should have gotten that he got 76.5% of those men remaining, and you'll need to put that into a sentence. So the Grand Old Duke of York had 76.5% of his men remaining when he got to the bottom of the hill. Okay, reflect on what you learnt this lesson.